fans, welcome back to Room 237 and happy Halloween. Well, I'm sure by the time you're seeing this, it's going to be well after Halloween, but I'm filming this on Halloween, so that's what matters. So yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to upload this. My time has been hectic lately, but happy Halloween all the same. Now, the reason why I was doing anthologies for the month of October is because I was building towards this one film. And of course there's a lot more I wanted to get to. Time in life has not been on my side, but all the same, I really wanted to get to this anthology film for Halloween. To me, it is the pinnacle of Halloween films, possibly even more than Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween itself. That is 2007's Trick or Treat, which I know there's some stuff, it was made and supposed to come out 2007. I guess it didn't come out till 2009, or something like that. It was, probably should have looked this up before. Yeah, it played at festivals in 2009. Some screenings, 2008. Wow. But this is, I mean, even Fangoria.com, the best horror anthology in years. I have to agree. This is one of my new favorite anthologies. And actually, I had never seen this before. I didn't see this back in 2008 or 9, back when I was in high school. I didn't see it up until, Halloween of this year, because it was just something I was never interested in. There's always more things I wanted to watch at the time or forgot about it. And it wasn't until I decided to do this anthology marathon for Halloween that I decided, well, I should probably pick up Trick or Treat. And I'm glad I did, because it's fairly original, especially in how it's structured. But this movie just oozes Halloween atmosphere. And it really does embody the spirit and everything that is Halloween. Especially in the cinematography, what the stories are. I'll get to all that. It was written and directed by Michael Dougherty. And I guess he's a really big fan of Pulp Fiction. So this is not a typical anthology where we have like a bookend and then in between segments with either like a host or some sort of framework of these separate stories. This one is more like a Pulp Fiction. It actually feels more like a Sin City type movie where it's all one movie, but each story is at it's not really in a linear order. And characters of each story are seen in all the other stories. It's like this interwoven type narrative, which is quite interesting. It's not like it needed it. You could have had it set up like Creepshow or Tales from the Dark Side or any of the Amicus anthologies, and it would have been just fine. But it did make it feel a little more original, so at least it had that. It does have 4 stories, and it stars Dylan Baker, Rochelle Aites, Leslie Bibb, Anna Paquin, and Brian Cox. And of course, this character, Sam, I guess would be like the one constant thing throughout all these stories. His main story is the last one, appears in the first story, and then he's pretty much, we see him sort of in the background or in passing through the other stories. But Sam the Trick-or-Treater has, I would say, become one of the big horror icons of the modern day horror, especially since it came out. I mean, I would put Sam up there with Jigsaw or Billy the Puppet, Victor Crowley, Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. All all the big horror icons who have come out since 2000. Even though Sam's only in this film, I know there's been talks of a sequel for ages. I could definitely see one. And also, like Sam itself, because Sam is sort of the mascot, I guess, for Halloween. His motives and what drives him is the tradition of Halloween itself. And I really feel that about the film in general. This film is everything Halloween. And I think this is the perfect film to watch for Halloween. And I mean, yeah, obviously John Carpenter's Halloween and those films are also great to watch for the holiday as well. I feel like this one just has more about what makes the holiday what it is. After watching this, Halloween kind of feels like a slasher film that takes place on Halloween. Even the cinematography, which was done by Glenn McPherson, there's a lot of dark scenes, this very orange and yellow type lighting. It really does look like this throughout most of the film. Almost, I know Mike OCP said it feels like it's lit up by a jack-o'-lantern, and I definitely agree. But the first story is we have a couple. They're coming home. I don't really know what he was supposed to be dressed up as, but she was sort of like a cardboard robot. She starts taking her Halloween decorations down, and then she's attacked by Sam, and she gets covered in a blanket. We see blood. And then when the boyfriend comes out, she's propped up on something that like her decorations were on, rips the sheet off of her, and she has like this huge lollipop in her mouth sideways, so like her mouth is stretched out. And the scares are well shot as well. And she has like all these red lights around her and wrapped around her head. So pretty well shot scene. Killed by Sam, because Sam goes around. Of course, he looks like a small child. His costume is like red footy pajamas, that burlap sack, which one that looks creepy. It sort of looks like the old photos of kids in like the 20s and 30s, back when Halloween costumes were really creepy looking. And it sort of kills according to whether people break the rules or traditions of Halloween. So then we get into our first story, which is probably still my favorite one, which for an anthology is kind of rare. You usually don't get the first story being someone's favorite. But there's this kid who I'm pretty sure was the kid Brett Kelly. He was the heavy kid with the curly hair on Bad Santa. He's walking around, he's smashing pumpkins, he's got 3 or 4 different trick-or-treat bags, so he's beating kids up for their candy. He goes up to this one house, and we see Dylan Baker as Principal Stephen Wilkins. He's been in a lot of stuff as well. And he's acting kind of creepy. He has him sit on his porch, talking about different traditions. And he gives Charlie this candy. Of course, he eats it, starts coughing. And all the stories in this really do represent something about Halloween. Like, eats the candy, starts coughing, and the principal says, like, oh, the most important tradition of Halloween, always check your candy. Because he had put cyanide in or on the candy, and he just starts vomiting all this chocolate, and he dies, gets him inside. And then there's the scene where he's trying to bury him in the backyard, but of course his neighbor, played by Brian Cox, is trying to talk to him. His son is upstairs trying to talk to him, and he's trying to look normal while in a hole, in a grave. It has some dark humor because the kid's in like a burlap sack, and you can hear him like moaning and trying to wake up. And he's trying to talk and play it cool to his neighbor or his kid while he's stomping on the kid's head. It's like, Even at one point, he tells his kid, like, go watch Charlie Brown. His son's like, Charlie Brown's an asshole. When you gonna help me with the jack-o'-lantern? Goes away, comes back. You gotta help me with the eyes. And it does sort of set up the other story, because at one point, he's walking in his front door. And, oh, yeah. After he brings Charlie inside the house, he gets a ring. There's kids there, gives them all candy. There's another knock, and he sees Sam. Or once they leave, Sam is just standing there, gives him candy, then he walks off. So he walks around to the front door to go in his house, and we see in the background at his neighbor's house, he's like in the window trying to get his attention, and we see Sam sort of jump on his back and then move out of the way of the window. So it's setting up its other stories, which is kind of interesting, but so then he's in the kitchen, and his young son's talking to him about doing the jack-o'-lantern, and he gets all like, yes, let's go down to the basement. And that's when we get our sort of Twilight Zone twist at the end, which I don't want to spoil it, because in case there's anyone that hasn't. I'm pretty sure I'm the last person on Earth who hasn't seen this yet. But I guess I'll say it at the end. But I didn't see the ending of that story coming. I thought it was pretty well done. Didn't see it coming. I thought it fit with the story. It wasn't like total left field craziness that didn't make sense. It was creepy, and it was a good ending. That's probably my favorite story. And then the next one is we get a group of kids. I think there's like 3 kids. A girl with headgear, this other girl. Is that who it was? Or, no, there was 5. Group of 4 kids. It's like the blonde girl, the girl with headgear, the tall kid, and then the short one dressed as a pirate. They're going around collecting these jack-o'-lanterns. Then they go invite this other girl who's really quiet. They do call her the R word. But she has all these pumpkins in her front yard. She's very talented at carving jack-o'-lanterns. So they invite her to go do this quarry. And you can already tell what's going to happen. It's going to be like a prank, or something bad's going to happen to her. They get down to the quarry, and they tell this story. Which, I love the tone, like this sort of sepia tone of this story. And, where the first story was kind of about, tainted candy and trick-or-treating at, the house of a creep or whatever. This one plays on, like, the urban legend around Halloween, where there's, like, this bus full of special needs kids. It doesn't go into detail as to what's wrong with them. I think it implies that they're all, I guess, criminally insane or violent. But they all sort of pay the bus driver to take them down to the quarry, let it go off the cliff. So he gets to the quarry, and there's this long scene where he's walks by, gives them all candy, checks their chains because they're chained in their seat. This one kid gets out, gets in the driver's seat and drives it off the cliff, and seemingly all die. But the prank is they all trick the one girl into thinking the kids have come back and chasing them, but they all dress up. And then come to find out the kids actually are sort of ghostly figures at the bottom of the quarry. Chase all the other kids, and the jack-o'-lantern girl leaves them down there because you have to take an elevator up and down. And I thought that was well shot too. This one's definitely the darkest visually. You know, I really like the look of the fog, the darkness of the bottom of the quarry. How, you know, all the kids were in Halloween costumes with masks, but they made them all like dark and slimy, and you know, it definitely had the atmosphere to it. The kids did deserve their comeuppance. The tall boy who was really nice to her, I guess didn't, but still. So then when she gets to the top of the quarry, she has her wagon of other pumpkins, and she sees Sam, and they just kind of walk past each other. Then we get to the third story, which is Anna Paquin, her sister, and their friends, which we have seen throughout the film. All these characters we have seen throughout the film. Background or otherwise. And we get the idea that Paquin is a virgin. She's dressed like Little Red Riding Hood. Because they talk about her first time. She wants it to be special. And her friends, who all have stereotypically slutty Halloween costumes, try telling her it's pointless. Don't worry about that. It's just whatever. So they go out to this one party. She kind of stays behind. And she gets attacked by this guy with like I guess a Venetian mask, who we see that he's bit and drained the blood of this one girl earlier. But I think she's trying to get to this party that's out in the woods where her sister and friends are. He attacks her, but then she ends up at the party anyway. And you can kind of tell where it's going. If I had paid more attention, I would have been like, oh wow, that's obvious. But come to find out, that guy's not a vampire at all. Actually, okay, I'll save it for the end, like I did for the first story. And then we come to the last one, which is the Brian Cox story, who is the principal's neighbor. And his story is the one with Sam. And, you know, it pretty much him and Sam fighting throughout his house. Like, what was it? Oh yeah, it also shows the principal, you know, in the grave trying to bury the kid. We get that whole scene again, but from Brian Cox's point of view. He uses his dog to scare away kids so he can get their candy. Of course, Sam doesn't like this. Now, at first, when Sam gets in his house and he has like a chocolate bar with a bite taken out of it, I thought I saw like something silver, like a razor blade put in it. So I thought that's why he was attacking him, but I guess not. But, so him and, like, this one might have been the most interesting and the most, like, wow, they really are going all out with this Halloween concept. Because he has a shotgun and he shoots Sam, like, in the arm, the leg, and when he shoots him, it looks like pumpkin guts coming off of him. He even rips off his, you know, his burlap mask. We see what he really looks like, which imagine like a skin-colored jack-o'-lantern, like sort of your like triangle eyes, kind of long mouth. So he's like this jack-o'-lantern demon monster thing, spirit of Halloween. But he's able to like put himself back together, like his hand at one point gets a hold of Brian Cox, but crawls back over to himself and he puts his hand back on. And at one point, I think Brian Cox like hits his table to get his gun back or whatever, and this candy bowl lands on him. Like there's this chocolate bar. So when Sam walks up to him, it sort of looks like he's offering him candy, which Sam then takes. And then he's satisfied, so he leaves. There's more to it than that. It really is more of like because we see him trying to get the principal's attention through the window, like we saw in the principal's story. We also see the jack-o'-lantern lollipop that he takes a bite out of, and he kind of uses that as like a sharp weapon. Which we get the idea is the lollipop from the opening story, or the opening of the film. And the story ends with him, because Sam leaves, and Brian Cox then puts this picture in his fireplace of him with all these kids by the school bus, so he was the bus driver, which I kind of figured is where they were going with it. And then the conclusion is it shows Brian Cox with like bandages and a sling. He's given trick-or-treaters real candy, and he looks over at Sam, and it looks like Sam's watching him. But then he sees the couple from the beginning coming home. He has this sharp lollipop, and he just kind of walks over. So we know that pretty much everything just took place before the opening of the film. Or he's going to do what we see in the opening. Shuts his door, gets another knock, and when he opens it, it's all the school bus children. They've all found their way to his house, and it ends with black screen, him screaming, their monstrous chewing sounds, which we did hear during their story. And then like the opening and ending credits also have like a comic book feel to it, which I loved. It doesn't necessarily feel like a ripoff of Creepshow or anything. I thought it looked really cool, especially since like the colors of the comic is still very Halloween colors. But I'm gonna say spoilers just so I can talk about my opinion of the ending of those stories. But if you haven't seen it, definitely recommend it. This to me is the perfect Halloween horror movie. Everything about it, just the different type of Halloween stories that are in it. You have the tainted candy, the urban legend, the one Sam story where it's actually about a trick-or-treater that's evil trying to kill a bad person who's not really giving out candy or being mean to kids, which I think is something that hasn't really been done before. Having an evil little trick-or-treater that looks creepy as well. And just the colors of the film, orange, yellow, black, really put you in the Halloween mood and spirit. The cinematography is great to look at. So I would say even more, as much as I love John Carpenter's Halloween, that is more my kind of film. I'd have to say this one is definitely more of like a Halloween special. Definitely more of something to get you into the Halloween spirit and mood. I have to say this is my favorite Halloween horror movie, definitely. But spoilers, definitely recommend it. So spoilers. I loved the twist of the first story. Takes his son down to the basement, he has the knife. You think he's gonna finally kill his annoying kid, but then he stabs seemingly the pumpkin, but when he pulls the knife up, it's got blood on it. And his son says, sort of creepily, "Don't forget to help me with the eyes." And we see it's Charlie's head on the workshop table. So we get the idea they've done stuff like this before together, and his son's gonna grow up to be a serial killer as well. I didn't see that coming. I thought it was a great idea. It wasn't so left field that it didn't make sense or take you out of the story. It definitely fit, and I thought it worked. It was definitely creepy. But the Anna Paquin story, when we find out that the guy who's supposed to be this mask-wearing vampire is also the principal, I feel like they could have used someone else. Like, why not use the boyfriend from the opening segment? Or, since we see the vampire anyway, in a couple shots earlier in the film, he could have just been his own character. I don't like that he was a Dylan Baker. That is one complaint I do have. But then it sort of turns into like From Dusk Till Dawn, because I thought they were all turning into vampires, but then they all turn into these werewolves. And there is some CGI, but I thought it looked fine. And I like how the werewolves are transforming. Like, it looks like their skin is completely ripping. Like, their human part of them is literally a costume, and they're ripping out of it. Again, yeah, CGI, but I thought it looked perfectly fine. And so he has to look around, and he realizes all the men at the party are dead. And he has to wait for Anna Paquin to, of course, she elaborates that, it's my first time transforming and killing as a werewolf, which is what they meant the whole time about her first time. It was wonderfully put to Marilyn Manson's cover of Sweet Dreams. So I thought it does seem like it's setting itself up because she is dressed as a Little Red Riding Hood. But, CGI didn't bother me. I loved the Marilyn Manson song they put it to. Definitely worked and helped set the mood. The only thing about that story would be, I wish he had been his own character, not the Dylan Baker principal from the first story. But, yeah, I definitely loved this film. It certainly is my new favorite Halloween horror movie. It just oozes Halloween atmosphere. Also, one of my favorite anthologies ever now. Along with John Carpenter's Halloween, this will be another Halloween tradition for me. I'll watch it every year. I am still partial, to Creepshow and maybe Black Sabbath, or maybe a little bit of Twilight Zone the movie, only because I love Twilight Zone, but this is one of the best anthologies. Actually, on second thought, this might actually be my second favorite anthology of all time. I mean, since I didn't review Creepshow this month, I reviewed it a while ago. This could be the best anthology I've reviewed all month. I will continue, because I did sort of discontinue my Patreon, just because I haven't had time to do anything. I'm going to try to do my own reviews as I can. I'm going to continue doing anthologies throughout November. I'll try to do another Ho-Ho Horror this year. But, yeah, I'm hoping I get my life a little bit more in order so I can have more time to do stuff. But, yeah, you'll definitely be seeing this review long after Halloween. I'm going to try to upload it when I can. But I absolutely loved this movie. I wish I saw it when I was younger, like when it first came out. I definitely would have adored it. It would have been something I watched every year. But I think this movie completely embodies everything that is Halloween. It had a good variety of different kinds of stories. excellent cinematography and color scheme. Michael Dougherty did a wonderful job writing and directing. Shock Till You Drop says the quintessential Halloween film. I couldn't agree more. Sam has become a modern day horror icon, like many of the other ones to come out since 2000. And this is one I could see a sequel to. A whole other group of just pure Halloween stories. Definitely loved a Trick or Treat. One of the most, probably the most fun I had watching an Anthology film this month, possibly ever. Awesome movie. I loved it. Well, by the time you're seeing this, again, it'll be way after the 31st, so happy belated Halloween, everyone. Hope you had a great Halloween, and I'll see what I can do, and I'll see you when I can throughout November. Thank you for watching.